The Soul Sovereignty podcast is a deep dive into the core wounds and deeply embedded subconscious beliefs that reside within the collective psyche so that you can reclaim your sovereignty and embody your power to experience freedom in your relationships. It is hosted by Jessica Falcon, International Soul Embodiment Guide and Relationship Coach. Visit thepathtosovereignty.com to enter a portal of transformation.
How to access the wisdom and the power and the mysteries of the womb. I am super excited to dive into this topic today with special guest Laura Hosford. She and I have a shared passion for connecting people, men and women, because everybody has an energetic womb, to the womb, to the mysteries of the womb, to the magic of the womb, to the creative capacity of the womb, and the way that the womb allows us to anchor into deeper aspects of our true, authentic self. We also share a passion for the divine feminine. Laura used to host the Goddess radio show, and I was on one of her podcasts previously. So I'll try to remember to put a link to that episode because we've done some really good podcasts together in the past.
We have.
And today we want to talk more about the womb. And, I think it's perfect with everything that's going on. I try to stay out of a lot of it, but I just want to mention this briefly. It's really easy to get caught up in the external world with so much going on. And the way to come back into the truth, into the divine self, and to the soul knowing is through anchoring the heart into the womb and through tuning in. And the womb holds so much. It's no wonder that there's so much wounding around sexuality. And my research really takes us back to when the wombs of women in particular started to be harvested and sexual wounding began on this planet. It's very connected to the immense power that actually exists within the womb. And so as we start to dive into this topic, I think it's important to bring that up. Because often when things are going crazy in the world, people are like, why does something like this matter? Right? Like, oh, well, I should be focusing on all these other things and all these other ways that I can help. And actually, the way that we create the shift right now, whether it be the return of the divine feminine, whether it be shifting our planet into more harmony and greater abundance and wealth and all of the things, more love and union, it's through one's own embodiment. It's through one's own embodiment of their own divinity and through one's own embodiment of their own deep soul truth. And that's why the womb matters so much. So, Laura, let's start the conversation with how you came into womb wisdom, if you feel like sharing that. And also, what is the womb? Because it's not just the uterus. So what is the womb? What are we talking about exactly before we dive in further?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me back on your podcast today. And for me, diving into the womb wisdom and just really beginning the journey of even for myself, beginning to clear and cleanse and heal my own womb traumas and distortions. And, because as women, we take the world in through our wombs, actually. And our womb to me is not just the sacral chakra. It's not just the second chakra. It's actually to me, it is the inner chalice that holds the divine feminine. It's not just a uterus. It's not just an organ like we've been taught or conditioned. It's actually way more than that. It's actually a portal between us and a direct connection that was been repressed and been kind of hidden, if you will, deep within us, the womb mysteries, because of the repression of the divine feminine over many thousands and thousands of years. And so this is really where our power and our ability to connect directly into, actually, to the womb of creation, I call it Sophia, Mother's womb of creation. And this all started for me in late 2016, actually, when I had a visit from Mary Magdalene, who came into one of my meditations, and she started to speak to me about doing the womb work. And she actually gifted me her gifts, her wisdom, her memories, and just started downloading me with all of this information that was something that I wasn't really knew about or was going to happen. I didn't realize I had this connection with Mary Magdalene and with Mother Mary and the whole, Rose priestess lineage. So that's how it kind of started for me. And then that next year in 2017, after that visitation and downloads, I kind of went through a walk-in experience, and I ended up spending 2 weeks in the south of France in June with a friend and sitting in the cave across from Rennes-le-Chateau, where Mary Magdalene is said to have been herself, and her energy is all in the lands there. So, which is actually Rennes-le-Chateau in that area is considered one of the seven Venus vortexes on the planet, which is it actually creates a womb space in the land, in the rocks and the trees, where all of this Venus energy is superimposed into the land. So that actually began to activate my own memories of previous incarnation, if you will, particularly in Egypt for me, of being what I call a red womb priestess in the lineage of Isis, of Mary, of Sophia. And so when I returned after that 2-week pilgrimage, and it just completely changed my life, because I was told that I was here to be a leader, to have a leadership in the divine feminine and helping women to reclaim that. And it all then started with the womb work, and I started my own journey of remembering and healing and clearing, in particular, the womb chakra, where before in my work, I was teaching Akashic records. So a lot of the focus, which wasn't incorrect, it was just was on the heart chakra up and the upper chakras, like where we do sometimes begin our journeys. But since that time, my focus has now included not just the upper chakras, but the lower chakras and the feminine and the connection with Mother Earth, right? And into the womb of even, Mother Earth herself, right? Who's a living, breathing being, and just like us, has a womb that's connected into the womb of creation. So for me, through my own experiences, particularly with the particular part of the Mary Magdalene energy, which is known as the Black Madonna energy, which is all about, really this energy, I think is still not really understood today. But the Black Madonna took me on a journey and showed me where this really deep wisdom of Sophia that we do hold, all women, and even men, hold in our womb, hold in for man the Dantian, right? And so that the Black Madonna energy, it's part of the Magdalene energy connected into the earth, and the elementals can help us, to ignite, basically to begin this really deeper journey of beginning to really return to our body, return to our womb, and begin to really clear and cleanse, the traumas, the abuse, the programming, all the things that are held there, because the womb is, to me, she's sort of like an Akashic record vehicle in the physical. So we have an Akashic record access in the etheric world that we can access of all of our experiences, everything is known there. But also our womb is an intuitive center, for me, probably the most intuitive center in the body, and the heart. They contain all of these, previous life memories there. They didn't go anywhere, right? Because we all know that on the true ascension pathway, we have to, we walk through the journey. We make that personal choice to choose to begin to engage with this journey of remembering and awakening our true authentic self. And in order to fully embody, our authentic true self, if you will, I usually refer to as our angelic self. We do the inner clearing, right? We do the inner purification, which includes the womb, because the womb has been with us in every incarnation. It's interesting because, we think about what the modern world has shown us about the womb, right? And so, a man and woman come together, and we have the egg coming out of the ovary, and then we have, the whole process, right? And then that all begins to develop inside of the mother's womb, right? And everything on this planet, the way this planet works, has to be birthed through a womb, everything. So, what I find fascinating is that I feel like that we're so powerful, right, as divine humans, that we engage in this process of coming. It seems like a seed is planted, a seed of light, right, through the egg. But I feel like it's well beyond our current understanding of this whole process right now, and that there's a much more, process of us as divine human beings making a deliberate choice to incarnate in this physical world for a very specific purpose or mission or dharma. So where I'm going with this is that I feel like that the womb, and beginning to understand and remember the mysteries of the womb, that we're only at the beginning. This is like a new frontier that we're beginning to remember. And even in my own research and my own discoveries and my own experiments, if you will, and working with Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary a lot, because they've been my primary guides through this process, they've guided me to say that, in order to become fully anchored and embodied, and what I mean by that is for us to actually allow our divine spark to fully descend into this beautiful elemental body, right? This sacred vessel, which is the process that we're undergoing right now. That we can't do it just to the heart, right? We can't just do it from the upper chakras to the heart and stop. That would be an incomplete process, and we will not ascend. We have to fully descend into this beautiful, body, right, of light. And so a lot of things that have happened to us over many incarnations, whether we've, not just incarnations on this planet, but in my understanding, anywhere in the universe, and even other parallel realities, we've had, you know, other experiences, right? Because we're not just in a singular, this is not just a singular linear type of uh, expression like we think it is, because we've been trained that, right, in the third dimensional reality. But in truth, as we awaken, remember our multidimensional expressions, right, from holding 12 strands of DNA in the original Christos Sophia diamond sun template to even beyond that. And so I feel like that we're just now beginning to remember. We're just now beginning to be able to get to this point of what I say individuation, which was the term coined by Carl Jung. And I really feel like my whole perception of my own womb journey has now grown to a new level, because, first it was about just the clearing, right? Just the clearing of the trauma, which is an important piece. I mean, it's part of the process. Clearing the traumas, the abuses, the distorted energies, the ancestral patterns that your ancestors have carried. Because in my own experience in dance with my own mother, I could very clearly begin to see that all those patterns were not just in the mental realm. They were playing out, being recreated over and over again, not just here, but in the womb. So they were all being carried as imprints inside of the womb, which happens for every generation, right? And this is why these patterns continue to flow down from, mother to daughter to granddaughter, for both women and men.
And I'd love to really just take a pause from that, because you've said so much that there are so many different pieces that I want to highlight and dive deeper into. And especially for listeners who maybe this is the first time they're tuning into a conversation about the womb, or perhaps, I taught, I have an online temple of divine feminine power. And last month we focused on womb wisdom. And, for some people, this is their first time they're really connecting to the energetic womb. And I want to talk more about it being a portal and connection to the Great Mother. But I also want to say that one thing I really want to highlight is this if we want to be embodied, and if we want to drop into the deeper self, the true self, the soul self, the divine self, which is the point of it all, really, it's the reunion, we do have to go into what some people call the lower chakras. Now, the chakras, for those of you who are newer to this conversation, are basically energetic centers that form and help shape the physical body. They're not limited to the physical body. And so we are energetic at our core. And that's something you're referring to, Laura. And when we start to go into the body, we're not connecting with it purely as physicality. And that's really important to highlight. We often think that we are, because as you said, we've been so trained to think this is a linear timeline. We have this one life, we're in this one body. And the reality that we both know from our own multidimensional or karmic healing experiences is that, and this is what I teach, I'm a soul embodiment guide, right? So it's like your body is formed by the energy of your soul, which means we can access those past, present, future timelines, heal karma by going into the body. And that's the way it works, because what we're doing is we're accessing the energetic imprint of those experiences. And so we're able to then not go in. I want to highlight this as well. We're not going into the womb to heal trauma from the perspective of being a victim. And that's where it can get a little, we have to walk a fine line of honoring the experiences without identifying with them and rooting into the divine identity. And I know that that's something that is really important when I work with clients, to hold that balance. Because what can often happen when people go into the womb, or their fear of going into the womb, is the trauma that's there, whether it be sexual or otherwise. And if we don't have that divine consciousness anchored in first, it is dangerous to go into the womb. Because there's so much that we stuff into the womb: the suppressed emotions, the old traumas, the karmic imprints, the suppressed rage, all the feelings of self-abandonment, self-rejection, self-betrayal, like they get. And so if we're talking about the wisdom and the power and the magic of the womb, we also have to talk about, as you said, okay, so what we also have to do is heal these woundings, and we have to do it from the perspective of our divine identity, that divine consciousness, which I think is why a lot of people start with these higher chakras, opening the heart, opening the third eye, because it feels easier. It's actually easier to open the higher chakras than it is to go into the lower chakras, and to bring that light, to bring that divine consciousness into the lower chakras. And what's amazing is that energy no longer just comes down, it comes up, and it activates our life force energy, because we're connecting to earth energy, primordial, primal earth energy, which is our sexual energy. And when anybody says that they have issues with desire, lack of desire, lack of sexual desire, sexual wounding, that means you got to go into the lower chakras to clear the space so that your inherent life force energy, sexual energy, which we need to redefine, which is a whole other conversation, because sexual energy has nothing to do with another person. I'm all about sexual sovereignty, right? It's nothing to do with another person. It's your own energy. And when we're going into the womb and beginning this journey, it can be really helpful to have the support, because so much is there. And it's important to recognize that it's a portal, that it is a portal to more than yourself. But it's also, I think, important to start with connecting with yourself first, because we have to develop the capacity to anchor into the true self before we receive some of these higher cosmic frequencies. And the mind is like, I just want to go there, right? Because it doesn't think the self is worthy enough.
True.
And when you can really work with, actually, I'm going into my womb just to connect with my inner self, just to connect with my truth, my needs, my feelings, that I'm enough, and you shift the patterning of not being enough, then your channel really begins to open. And then you can actually hold and access and receive more of the massive cosmic beautiful earth energy that wants to move through you. But I think it's important to really be clear that you're enough. You're enough. Your womb anchors you into you, and it's enough to start there. And if you don't start there, you might not actually be able to hold or receive the energies that are really available as well. So I I have so many other things I want to highlight. There's anything you want to say about that before we continue?
No, I love everything you said. It was so well said and about the process. And it was really, really good points because I feel like that if you've just awakened on your journey, you're not going to step right into the womb work to begin with. You're not going to be ready for that until you had such a good point about really being able to really connect in with your divine soul self, right? That higher self, and become kind of more stabilized in that, right? More
Yeah.
stabilized with the energy, with the flow, reconnection, opening the heart, um, and opening that
And
flow
yes,
to the heart.
because that heart and womb connection, let's talk about that because
Yeah,
people get
absolutely.
really confused and they think,
Yes,
oh, I have to open the heart, I have to open the womb. And we can't open one without the other. They are so interlinked. So let's talk about
they
that.
are. Absolutely. And one thing too, on my own discoveries too, that we talk a lot or we hear a lot about the brain and the heart coherence field, which is absolutely part of, our energy field, right? In this energy space and expansion. However, upon my own discovery, something that is newer is that there is another coherence field, and that is between the heart and the womb, what we're talking about here. And like you're saying, is that the heart and the womb are really meant to interlock and work as one, with the womb becoming kind of the foundation for the blossoming of the heart, to the sacred heart to blossom into the multidimensional heart, right? To fully open and bloom. She anchors into the womb space. The womb is kind of the holder, for her. And the two really are meant to work as one. They're not meant to work separately.
And they did in
Um,
ancient times, that's my understanding. And they got
yes,
disconnected. And I think
disconnected.
it's important to highlight that they became disconnected
Hmm.
in the core. Because if you think about, okay,
Yes,
here's the heart, here's the
right.
womb, what's in between? Well, guess where your soul light comes in the
Yep.
core.
And the core. And, it's kind of interesting too, this being, as I understand it, the year of the high priestess in 2026. And there's a lot of focus this year on, for the year of the high priestess, of course, means she's, reconnecting in within ourselves first, with our own inner king masculine energy. And so in order for that to happen, we need to have had to do the womb work. We have to be fully connected in every chakra, right? Every of the seven major chakras and even beyond that. And so as I understand it, what's really, really key this year is the solar plexus chakra in this whole equation, which is between the heart and the womb, right? So I'm kind of playing with this whole new exploration of the rebirthing of, on this ascension pathway that we're on, and the rebirthing of our authentic self, our true self, or becoming into this point of individuation, the way that I interpret it, or it's being shown to me, is really, for those who are on the priestess pathway, I'll just put it that way, will be fully blooming this year and anchoring in our high priestess, who will be able to anchor into the womb and bloom her womb, her heart, all the chakras, right? All 12 chakras eventually, into what I call we're really kind of, you know, the way I describe it is we're reclaiming or rebirthing our rainbow crystalline tree, right? Our tree of life, if you will. We're also a tree of life, the way I see it. And so the womb and the heart are really so key and important to this, about coherence this year. It's about coherence and resonance and full embodiment. So, we're not going to just be like zooming around here between the head and the heart, which is part of it, but it's we have to step into the wholeness now, right? And the wholeness, stepping into that full embodiment and anchoring in our divine spark, that resonance field, now is going to drop into this activating the heart, the solar plexus, and the womb space, is that kind of second piece from what I've been shown to really fully reclaim and step into that full embodied, anchored of our divine spark. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, and from my perspective, we both have different ways, right? That we've looked at this,
Yeah.
and I've been researching a lot of the ancient civilizations and mythology for about 10
Mhm.
years now. And so, and then also, of course, and then we both channel and work with the goddess energies as well.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that I like to look at it is that if we're talking about the heart womb being reunited, and the core is what sits in between, the core is where the soul light comes in. Well, what
Mhm.
does that mean? When the soul of woman was denied, is when her sexual energy started to be harvested, taken, extracted, misused for the
Mhm.
benefit of other. And at that time, it was for the benefit of man. And this is not in any sort of attacking or blaming way. This is just history. And then, of course, man himself, in order to take that, had to feel his own emptiness and lack and disconnection from his own source, right? So we've all
Mhm.
suffered from that denial of our own divinity, which leads us to the path of healing, is the reconnection to and remembrance of our divinity, right? That is embodying
Right.
our divinity. Now, if that's the case, then when we're wanting to reconnect the heart and womb, it is the remembrance of our soul that allows us to reconnect the heart and womb. It is the remembrance of and the activation of our soul light. Now, what that also means is we have to look at all the ways that we have feared our own light. We have to look at all the ways that we have feared our own power, the ways that we have feared our own truth, feared our own gifts, because so many women in particular have experienced persecution wounds, have
Right.
experienced the judgment, the blame, the I mean, the list could go on about all the things
Mhm.
that have kept us from owning our power. And when I say our power, I mean true power. I'm not talking about worldly power, because the path to the feminine is releasing external forms of power
Mhm.
to anchor into your divine power. That's the path of the feminine. And so when I say power, I'm referring to the power of your divinity. When we start to reconnect to our own light, we connect to our own truth within the core.
Mhm.
That is one of the ways we reunite the heart and womb, because nothing exists on its own. Everything is automatically communicating and interconnected with everything else. Can we open the channels? Yes. I know we both do embodiment practices that help people open these channels to reconnect these aspects 100%. Yes, we need to do that. We can do that. And when we are doing the deeper emotional work and mental work to claim more of our true self, to claim more of our divinity and our power, these reconnections automatically happen. And
Mhm.
if we are trying to reunite heart and womb, but we're denying who we are, we're hiding aspects, and we're rejecting self, and we're in these patterns, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We
Right.
have to open the heart to bring the energy of love down into the self, down into the
Mhm.
womb. So you become that fountain, you become that wellspring of true divine love and true wisdom. And you're right, so much more like true abundance and true wealth and true intuition and oracular capacities and all of this that comes when we reconnect this.
Mhm.
And that process is can actually be quite simple. I mean, we're using a lot of big terms, we've said a lot of big things because we're multidimensional and we've got this and we have this path and we've both been trained by Magdalene and Isis and the lineage and Sophia, Christos, light, all the things we could blah, 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 blah. And the reality is it's also so simple.
Yes.
It's so simple. And I want to remind listeners of this. It's so simple.
Yeah, absolutely excellent point. And I bring myself back to that it's a lot more simple, but it can get very complicated, right, with our words and our
with the
terms
ego.
and our ego, and absolutely. And one of the embodiment practices that I teach, that I been using with my book, Rise Divine Earth Angel, a Magdalene Sophia prayer pathway, that really kind of came front and center when I was writing the book, that is actually a remembrance of a ancient priestess practice, which is simply bringing one hand to the heart, wherever you feel on the physical heart you want to bring your hand, and then your other hand to place it, on the womb, or for a man, the dantian,
Like the
and
low
this
belly, basically.
lower belly. Yeah. And so this simple practice, and
Mhm.
sitting in this position and meditating in this position, is automatically bridging, right? The masculine to the lower, the feminine. It's automatically um, bringing the two as one, the heart and the womb together, to
And
begin to
it's so
connect.
loving. And
And
it's
in very
so,
loving, exactly. I usually put my left hand on my heart because that's our receiving. And as I do that, I'm channeling the heart energy, right, through the heart meridians, through my hand, and I'm channeling down through the arms to my womb. And I'm automatically filling my womb with love, sourcing it through my own heart that's connected to the heart of the universe, right? To the heart of Mother. So, this one embodiment practice that you can do, that's very simple but very powerful, just sitting with this for 5-10 minutes in your own meditation or prayer time. And this automatically is bringing in the remembrance of who you are as an authentic soul being. Like, to me this year, I guess really my key word this year is remembrance, because it's not about efforting. I mean, we've been doing these healing processes and practices, in my view, to prepare us for the leap into the fifth dimensional consciousness, into I call it the new earth star, or unity consciousness. And in preparation, right, for that. So to me, it's about helping our body already remembers, to me, that the inside our DNA, inside our blood, inside our bones, we already have that connection to divine universal mother of creation and father. We already have it there. It's already within us. It's not outside of us. And yet this reclaiming of the womb, right? Opening the heart and then reclaiming the womb is such a key piece to the full embodiment, so that um, when we're rebirthing or bringing in, let's say, our heaven on earth, whatever that is for you, right? We all have a gift we want to give, to this world, right? And um, that is, like, the way I understand it, is when we can fully embody and anchor in, but we're now including our full body. Our body is the oracle. We're now bringing the body is our natural oracle abilities online. So we're not just living from just the logical left brain, right? We're not just living from this little box anymore. We're living from the whole brain, the pineal, we're living from the heart, we're living from the womb. And to really fully reclaim our full self, I will say it that way, our full authentic self, means we have to reclaim the womb. We have to reclaim this womb, which is, to me, the holy of holies, the divine intersection between us and a direct connection to the source of creation. I mean, just really think about that for a minute. I mean, we do have a connection from the heart, of course, to the heart of creation, but it's still not complete until we bring in the womb, right? That is the completion, to me, of this entire ascension process and journey, is when we can fully anchor in our divine light, like you said, and our womb is to be the holder of our soul, of our divinity. Every cell in our body, is to be included in that. And so I think that really takes it to a whole new level of where we're going. Like, we're on this new frontier, I like to think of it. And like you said, thousands and thousands of years ago, probably, before the fall, before Babylon, let's say 12,000 years ago, around that time, when we did remember that we were goddesses and gods, and we remembered that, and we walked on the earth, and men and women were not at war. They were actually in a true partnership, right, of mutual respect and honor. And as I understand it, really the kind of the first religion was the worship of the womb, because at that time, you know, it was revered, the sacredness of women's wombs and being able to birth life. And, that was vital, right? That's vital to continue our species, to continue humanity evolving, to birth life through an organic womb, right?
And then it became associated with a curse, right? And later
Yes.
Judeo-Christian traditions. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, I think the undoing, Mother Mary always was speaking to me a lot about, we're undoing like all of these, we're not just purifying the traumas and the repressed emotions. I mean, that's all part of it. But, she said it's a greater, I guess, picture or bigger picture to
Mhm.
this with the womb that, you know, we're just on the edge of that. She goes, we're undoing like all of these experiences where we kind of became enmeshed with each other, because every time you've had a sexual experience, a physical sexual experience with another human, right? Whether woman to woman, man to man, whatever it is, combination, you are in an intimate, deep process of sharing all of your energy with that other person, whether you were conscious of it or not. There was an exchange of this energy, including that person's beliefs, their ideas, their traumas, their emotions, their pain body. And even beyond that, I just recently learned too that even when you're sleeping with if you're married or partner, when you're sleeping with someone in the same bed, right, side by side, and your auras are over, your energetic bodies are overlapping in your auras, there's an exchange of energy. So just think about that for a minute, that there's been all this exchange of energy that you've been drawing into your womb or your dantian as a man over and over and over. And then all of that got passed down when you were inside of your mother's womb, all of it through your ancestry. So,
Yes,
we're,
and I just have to say, from a sovereignty perspective, there
mhm,
are ways to clear that and then create deeper levels of energetic protection and sovereignty around the room so that you're not ingesting
absolutely.
so much. So I just want to say
Yes.
that because we're not victims to that either.
No, we're not. We're not victims. None of this is
No. Yeah.
victims.
I just want
This
to be
is
clear.
all absolutely. This is all about, like you said, when you made that really great point that, because I wrote this down, that the solution, what is the solution, right? About really healing ourselves so that we can truly walk again in sovereignty as we did as goddesses, as gods, whatever, meaning that we're sovereign in every level of our body and being, right? And it does take that shift, that inner shift, that you can't do it from the previous perspective of the lower self or the ego.
No.
It won't work, because that's the
Mm-mm.
victim mentality that's coming from lack and separation. And so you're on this journey, and then you make a free will choice, a divine choice, that now you want to evolve into, you know, regaining your sovereignty in the body. That makes a shift from the way I see it to now I'm viewing my life from my divinity, right? From my highest authentic true self. I'm viewing everything now through that perspective, which is not a victim perspective. And that now gives me the direct connection to my divinity to make all of these, to manifest this, to create it into form, right? And knowing that I have the power, to do that, and that I don't need anyone's permission. I'm my own authority to do that. But, lately I've been seeing this shift within myself, that to truly rebirth the true self, our divinity, there has to be that choice. There has to be that shift. And once you can completely make that shift, then everything falls away. Everything begins to fall away, meaning that is not meant to be inside your body, right? Because all that's meant to be inside of your body is your divine soul spark, your energetic soul blueprint, not your mother's, not your father's, not your siblings, not your partners, none of that. And that was the great undoing that Mother Mary was saying that we're doing, which is well beyond even what we can see in the physical realm. This is happening in the quantum space around us. And so this expansion is going to continue as we remember and awaken to our multidimensional, self, and turning on those 12 strands of DNA again. It's going to change our whole world. And, I think it's when we start doing this year, Jessica, I think, by 2027, oh, I can't wait to see around the world all the high priestesses and the high priest, we're going to be standing together. I feel this great vision. I see and feel it in my body around the world, and we're going to be completely pulled away from the system. We're going to be in the system, but not of the system. We're going to be in the world, but not of the world, like Yeshua said.
In the world, and we are of the world, because that's the thing about union, is that part of that is that we are one with all things at its source.
Yeah.
And we are of the elements of this world. So I just have to say that, because I work so deeply with Gaia and the energy of the earth, and how people connect to her through their bodies, through their wombs, and it's got correct. So earth, got something very with here.
Yeah. It's like, oh my goodness, something got stirred up.
And we are of her. And I think part of the split in our consciousness is the idea that we're not. And when you talk about a multidimensional being, I want to clarify for myself when I think about that, because it's a big word. And it's like, what does that mean? What does multidimensional mean? Because we talk about the womb as an energetic portal. The womb connects us to multidimensional realms. What does that mean? So for me, that means that we are an eternal divine being. We are an eternal soul. The soul, from my perspective, is the individuated aspect of the divine that is you. And that individuated aspect of the divine is not limited to physicality, which means it can experience lifetimes in other dimensions, planets, galaxies simultaneously, because we're energetic. But our consciousness is here now, and we are made of the earth. We were born through the earth's body. We are of the earth. We are. And I think the illusion lie is that the earth is not divine. And that right there is what keeps us from embodying our divinity. And it's what keeps us from accessing the lower chakras and the womb. And that right there is the illusion that we're here to break, particularly as high priestesses, but particularly as conscious beings who chose to come to this planet because she is infinitely abundant, infinitely powerful, infinitely wealthy, infinitely loving, the most loving divine source that I've ever actually come into contact with is the earth, is the primordial depth of the waters, the cosmic mother. And so I just have to say that for my own sake, because I know that that's a phrase that is spouted a lot. And I actually believe that Yeshua, Jesus himself, knew that he was of the earth, and that part of the wounding of that time is the denial of that, and that we made him divine by cutting him off from the earth. We made him divine by cutting him off from his body and cutting him off from his sexuality. And that's the wounding that I know I'm here to heal. And I feel like the earth wants us to heal. And when we go into the womb, we are remembering the sacredness of life, the sacredness of the body, and the sacredness of our sexuality. And it's so important to also recognize that part of this, my passion around this, is helping people reconnect with the earth through their womb, the divinity of the earth through the womb. For example, I took a group of women to Greece last year, and one of the places we went was Delphi. It's the womb navel chakra of the world. And I'm taking a group again this year. I think you know that. And a big part of it is reconnecting women to the womb of the earth. And yes, we can do that anywhere. We can do that on the bed. We can do that no matter what town or city or country we're in, 100%.
Right.
And there's an energetic there, a multidimensional portal there that makes it easy and that gives us certain access, and where these temples were built in honor of the womb of Gaia. And there's something very sacred about being able to put your feet there and connect to the portals there and work with the portals and work with the energies and receive that wisdom. And when I first went to Greece in 2014, that's when the airs really began to come to me, really began to say, come back to me, really began to come into my body again, because I didn't see her as sacred. I did on some level, but I was so connected up here in the higher chakras to my divinity and to the star seed and to all of these other realms. And I didn't recognize yet how powerful and sacred and divine and infinitely loving, and how much I chose to be here, wanted to be here, not to fix her, not to change her, but because she is a gift. She is a gift to our divinity, to our soul, not something to escape or leave. And so I know we have to wrap up soon for the sake of time. So you're welcome to respond to that or anything else you want to share as we close out.
Well, I think what your point about Yeshua coming into this earth, and at that time, of course, women's wombs were not being respected. They were being exploited, right?
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because I was making this kind of parallel when you were speaking, that Yeshua also respected Mary Magdalene, which I believe she was his wife, and the 13th apostle,
and fellow teacher.
Right, and fellow teacher. But the thing is about that, because they were married, but also, that was quite exceptional in the healing, because it also showed where he totally 100% respected Mary Magdalene as a woman, including her body and her womb, as a portal of divine creation, as sacredness. So even though that's not something that gets talked about in a religious sort of context, but to me, we're not talking about religion. We're talking about spirit. We're talking about the reunion, the real union, the hieros gamos of the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine that we were talking about in the beginning, coming together and coming back, realizing that they're one. They're not separate. They're one. They're not divided. And this body is not divided. So, all of life is in the womb. If you think about it, all of life births from a womb, which to me is a holy chakra, right? A holy point of emergence for all of life to be birthed through us. And everything being birthed through that woman's womb is sacred, whether we're birthing a baby or we're birthing something in the new earth, or we're birthing, whatever it is. And I feel like we're at this point now where in the evolution of humanity, are we going to choose the pathway of individuation, living, letting our divine spark come into the body so that we can become now rooted in the foundation of our life, our whole body included, anchored into the earth, Mother Earth, and the divine, and begin to create from the frequency of unconditional love, from love, which is the fifth dimensional world, instead of creating from the previous third dimensional world of lack and separation. So to me, that's the big choice point now. And the womb work it's just, like you said, part of the natural progression as we, re-engage the upper chakras, which is pretty easy for us, I think, to do. But the challenge becomes those lower three chakras.
And that's how we embody, right?
And that's how we embody. That's it. That's exactly what the Marys, reminded me. They said, if you want to be fully embodied, you're going to need to do this lower work, the lower chakra work. And boy, am I so glad that they came. And, I'm just so grateful every day, Jessica, because I just couldn't imagine being in this world right now without that guidance, without that love, without the help and the support. And it's there for everyone, for every woman and every man. When you choose it and you make that choice, all that divine support shows up for you.
Yeah. And I think that's a beautiful way to wrap up this powerful in-depth, multidimensional conversation about the womb and the portal of the womb. And so, and I love that you also left the listeners with that powerful but simple practice of putting, one hand on your heart, one hand on your womb, which is your low belly, right? Your womb is essentially your whole pelvis, your energetic womb, but just placing a hand on the low belly, placing a hand on the heart, feeling the breath move between the two, feel how natural the breath, right? It wants to move between the two, feel the connection, and just be, and just listen and hear, because connecting to the womb is such a receptive process. It's an allowing. It's not about doing.
Right.
And that's the wounding, right? We go in and we extract and we take and we demand. And that's the wounding. We don't go into the womb that way. We don't heal the womb that way.
Right.
And so I love that you left that practice. I know we both have offerings that allow women and men to connect to their womb and to their divine feminine and their divinity more. So if you want to mention, and we'll put links to both of our offerings below, but if you want to mention what your offerings are and how people can reach you, that would be great.
Okay, yeah, thank you. You can really reach me. Just go to my main website, which is Laura, Laura Hosford, HOSFORD.com, laurahosford.com. You can see some of my offerings there. Sign up for a free newsletter if you want. I'm also on Substack or YouTube if you want to connect that way. And really right now, the offering that I have right now is that I do have a Magdalene Sophia women's circle that we meet 2 times a month. If you're interested in that, that's a really good way to get kind of introduced to the work that I bring through, and which includes prayer work, womb work, heart work. Right now, that's the focus on really just helping the divine feminine to anchor and into that full embodiment and becoming the authentic true self. That's really what I'm focused on for 2026.
Beautiful. Yeah. I know you've done a lot of priestess work with people, and that's great. Yeah. I'll put all the links below, and I'll put the links for the Temple Divine Feminine Power and the Greece retreat as well below. You can reach me at thepathtosovereignty.com. We would love to see your comments, your questions, because we could always follow up. If you've got questions, let us know. Put them in the comments below. Like, subscribe, let other people know about this if it benefited you, because it really is the next level of evolution for people to start waking up to the power and the wisdom and mystery of the womb. There's so much more we could have shared, so much more we could say. We could talk for hours and days and hours and days and hours and days about the womb, and probably still have more to share. I would love at some point to talk about some of our multidimensional or powerful experiences with it. And yet, I know that I've been meditating with my womb for, since 2013 or 14 now. And it never gets boring. And it can be so simple. And every morning I just put my hands on my low belly in an upside down V position, fingers pointed down to the feet. And I just breathe and I listen and I drop deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And just that is enough to begin to open, to receive these deeper parts of you. So thank you, Laura, for your time, for your energy, for your wisdom, and for all that you shared, for being here.
Yeah,
and
my pleasure.
I know we'll have even more conversations in the future. So
thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.